With me as my next guest, Debbie Millin, who's president and founder of Upper Level Solutions. Debbie, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Why don't you tell our listeners a little about Upper Level Solutions?
Sure. We offer part-time and interim chief operating officer services for companies in transition. So primarily that's rapid growth companies, turnarounds, and companies involved in M&A, so either before or after a sale.
Okay, and typically any particular industries that you service, or do you?
No, actually, quite a variety. Most of my background is in telecommunications, software and hardware upgrades, and professional services. So a lot of my network is there and a lot of my clients are there, but I've also worked with a college planning company, a sales lead generation company. It's a wide variety, which is what I enjoy.
Wow, so it gives you access to different industries, different opportunities, but
Yes.
I would imagine that the issues by and large are the same.
They are directly applicable from one industry to the next, and it's often good, I think, to get someone from outside the industry and get a different perspective.
And I think that the old adage is probably true. Make sure the place is organized and the trains are running on time.
That's what I do.
Good stuff. So what are some of the more popular? You talked about getting companies ready for a merger acquisition, companies going through transition. In any ways, is there an ideal customer that you service?
It really does vary, but there are two categories, I would say. One is that sort of startup and emerging growth company, companies that have been around for maybe a few years, a few $1 million in revenue, that are really looking to scale and get to that next level. And that's something I have experience with. One of the companies I worked for was the #1 fastest growing company in Boston, which I'm very proud of. And the other category is that, company getting ready to go through a sale. I like to come in as early as possible if a company is thinking about a sale, to come in and sort of, I call it, get your house in order before you even really formally enter due diligence. There's a lot of things you can do in that area, but I also come in after a deal has been done and maybe things did not go as well as was planned on the logistics side and the operations, and I could come in and sort of help do some cleanup.
So in some respects, you're the corporate Ghostbuster. Get into that closet,
I have
find
been
those
called-
skeletons, and clean them out.
I've been called a one-woman SWAT team.
Well, it's obviously an important element, as we all know from experience. Cleaning those things up in advance of due diligence is critical for enterprise value and transaction value.
Absolutely. You want things to be as efficient as possible, maximize your revenue so that when you're getting to a sale, you get as much money as you can.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that people who have never gone through the sale process don't recognize is they, very often they'll say, "What do you think my company's worth?" And then the answer is, "It all depends."
And it does. And a lot of the value nowadays is sort of intangible. It's not all on, the balance sheet anymore. And a lot of that has to do with the efficiencies and the people that work there, and you want to make sure that everything is working as smoothly as possible.
So, in terms of a company's growth cycle and the role that you play, which is certainly at the senior levels, as the name of your company alludes, what do you see as some of the typical markers or typical identification patterns of a company that is in need of somebody like yourself?
Yes, I actually have found myself partnering with a lot of accounting firms, legal firms, VCs, private equity, and commercial banks that have a wide variety of clients that may need some operational help or maybe getting ready for a sale. And I've had people ask me, well, how will I know if there's some issue that I might need to pull you in on? So I came up with some sort of clues from either the management team or for these professionals to be looking at. From a client delivery perspective, if the company is consistently missing deadlines, if there's issues with project execution, if there's a low quality of deliverables and you have some client complaints or a lot of client churn, if the clients are finishing out their contract and they don't come back, those are all good signs that something, something is maybe not going well, but on one layer down. From a financial perspective, if they're consistently over budget in their spending, if there's an increase in internal costs with no associated revenue growth, or they're just simply not meeting their revenue targets, a lot of that could be operationally based as well. And then finally, just internally, if they're having trouble filling open positions, if there's unhappy employees, if there's turnover at a senior level in particular, or they're just not meeting their strategic goals, all of those, again, are signs that there might be operational issues that are feeding into those larger issues.
So in most cases, would you, what is the typical process that a company goes through? Would they be evaluating those types of markers that you look for themselves? Would there other professional service providers be pointing those things out and saying, you know, guys, I think you ought to look at bringing somebody on board to take care of these issues? How does the typical point of entry happen for you?
It varies very widely. Sometimes it's a CEO or a founder coming in and wanting really to get to that next level, so they bring in me to get them ready to scale. I've had, again, lawyers, accountants refer me to their clients because they do feel like there is an issue that I can come in and assist with. A lot of what I do with startups, a lot of startups bring their CFOs in first, which makes a lot of sense, but what ends up happening is that the CFO, the financial person, ends up running operations.